This week, we've had various different news stories happen in general practice that are probably shaking what a lot of people think in terms of what's going to happen in the future, currently, and at other times as well as recapping some of the stuff that we've been into as well. So let's get cracking as we take enhance primary care learning. Hello, EGP learners, and welcome to this episode of the EGP Learning Podcast. As myself and Andy are going to catch up on everything that's been happening in general practice in hopefully a quicker format than normal, and with our different view as well, Andy.
It is, yeah. I'm like it. People are seeing more of us and more of the rooms in which we exist. So that's really good.
Yeah.
Hopefully people enjoy that.
Yeah.
So what are we going to talk about today? We will be covering some general practice, contract, political news leading up to a big story about KBS Katie Bramall-Stainer, which will be interesting. So stick around for that. Gandhi will be giving us some reflections on the Pathways Conference, Pathfinder Conference. That happened earlier this week, and I wasn't able to attend. I was planning to, but wasn't able to go in the end because I had to do something with the ICB. But I'm really keen to hear about how it went. We'll also be talking about other opportunities to get involved with activities that we're up to and conferences we're doing with the GP5TX Trainers Conference, and much more. Wavelength will be here again, where we see if we're on each other's wavelength. There's a little bit of light relief. So let's get going. Anything else I missed, Gandhi?
No, well, we've got some other stuff about the 10-year plan and various other news stories as well. And we're going to go into our main story in a second. But just before we do that, as Andy mentioned, one thing that did happen a couple of days ago was that I was joined by the team from Modality Pathfinders. We led on their digital integration summit. This was in Birmingham. It was an amazing conference. I had such a great time. Honestly, it was great fun. We had, I think, over 150 people live in the room. It was less than planned because of those lovely tube strikes. We had quite a few people turn around, so they just couldn't get to Birmingham because of the tube strikes and stuff. But we had over 900 people join us online, which was absolutely stonkingly crazy. In terms of the lineup, we had a variety of speakers. We had Dr. Minal Bakai, who's Director of Primary Care and Integration and various other hats. Duncan Gooch, who you remembered, Andy, from PCM Plus. So he was there talking
from medical school as well.
And from medical school, yeah. We also had various people from Modality, but also we had people from Google, people from other organizations as well. Honestly, the lineup was huge, and we talked about a variety of different things, including the current changing landscape of general practice, the future of health technology, and also some interesting stuff around personalization as well. And we even had a speed debate. So, wow. Yeah.
So Gandhi, what was the most surprising or interesting or exciting thing that came out of the conference?
I think it was the need for connection for me. One of the things that massively came through was this desire for many people to have a space to talk around, particularly a lot of the governance stuff, and particularly for the growing emergence of the CSO title that I think we're starting to see, clinical safety officer, because a lot of people obviously talk about AI products. What does that mean in terms of governance? How do you make that work and all that kind of stuff? So that definitely came through. And also the will for innovation. So many people talk about how they're going to plan to use the variety of products and, what can be born out of that. So, one of the personalization team speakers, unfortunately, I've forgotten, Amber something, I can't remember her surname. She was talking about creating a platform that actually keeps the data on your phone and deletes it as you're kind of like your own personal LLM that she's created, not creating, created, for particularly used for women's health, but potentially then can be used for a variety of other aspects in terms of data storage. So it kind of gets around a lot of the concerns we've got about data storage when it comes to health data, and makes it more manageable and scalable.
Wow, that's really exciting. And yeah, my understanding is once you've created these large language models with all the learning, actually they can run on quite small devices, as those innovations from China sort of showed us last year. But yeah, it's really, really exciting. Yeah, okay, hopefully I can make the next one. It sounds like you've identified a need for it to happen again. So let's make sure.
As a result of it, I've got something in the works that hopefully, fingers crossed, if I can manage it, will be out shortly. That will be there, particularly for all those CSOs and particularly people who are watching. But when we're talking about community, I guess one of the things we probably should just briefly mention is our GP5TX conference, which is on the 20th of September. Links are down below and coming up in the chat as well shortly. But if you haven't signed up, make sure you do. It's the next Saturday, basically, and we've got an amazing lineup of stuff, including we've got a really interesting session that I know Ed Pooley is going to be delivering on Gen Z trainees versus Gen X trainers. I'm so looking forward to that one. That's
Battle of the
gonna be awesome.
Generations. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm really excited about that one. That's going to be my favorite, I think. But there's the usual things about the managing assessments for trainees, and AI has been there for the last few conferences. So there'll be some AI content there, and the Ask Us Anything panel, which I really enjoyed last time as well. All sorts of things came up.
Yep.
A question about different generational attitudes towards training came up there and inspired that session by Ed this time.
Definitely. So Dr. Devin Gray is delivering that AI session. Met her at the Digital Integration Summit and stuff. And yeah, she's got some really cool ideas for that particular session. I hope we can pull it off. We'll see. But we're going to jump into our main story because we are not holding fire at all. We say we get through this quickly. And first thing is we're talking about the 43 neighbourhood pilots that have just been announced yesterday, I think it was, wasn't it, Andy?
Yeah, 9th of September. So I think it's just a few days ago, but at the beginning of the week. So those people who've been involved with development of integrated neighbourhood teams in their areas may have submitted a bid to be part of these pioneer sites for developing neighbourhood working across the country. So I think 100 and something, maybe 150. There was a lot of systems and places made applications to be one of what was said to be sort of 42 or 43 areas that would be awarded this pioneer status. There's about 43 ICBs in the country, so I think people thought that maybe there might be one per ICB, and I think it may have worked out pretty much in that way. So they announced, Wes Streeting himself announced the areas earlier this week with great fanfare. And I mean, Nottingham's one of the areas, Nottingham City. So we have a local bid that's been successful. So
yeah,
so
congratulations to the team, because that must have been a huge amount of work to get it in.
It was really short notice as well, actually, with the application. But I need a lot of signatures on that because they wanted to make sure that all parts of the system were on board. So thanks to our local clinical directors of primary care networks and everyone else who was able to review that document and sign it out short notice. So well done, Nottingham. There's all sorts of other areas. We'll probably scroll down the list later so you can see if your area's there, but there are 43 of them. So the interesting thing, Gandhi, that I was going to sort of ask you and ask the viewers really is whether the hype and expectation around these neighbourhood areas and neighbourhood teams could be outpacing the funding and the resources behind them. So if you look at some of the coverage that this has got, so if we look at the newspaper, 43 areas in England are getting their first NHS neighbourhood services, and it kind of talks about what people might expect from these, but it doesn't really talk about the timescales, and it feels like they're talking about something that might exist at some point in the future, but certainly not now at the time of the announcement. So that just worried me a little bit about how this is sort of being used to build expectations. And then if you look at what's actually happening, there's about £10 million behind this scheme. So that's sort of less than £250,000 per region. And it's a little bit unclear quite how much of that is actually going to be able to be spent sort of locally, because there's quite a package of facilitation coming from NHS England that I think could eat up quite a lot of that money, actually. Areas will get an opportunity to help shape the funding flows of the future. So that was a big attraction for being a Pathfinder area, because you get some influence in terms of what the future contracts will look like. So I'm imagining that these Pathfinder areas will be helping to shape the small neighbourhood provider, multi-neighbourhood provider sort of contracting models. That's what I'm hoping for. There's a national coach that works with your local team, access to subject matter experts. There's some face-to-face regional workshops. There's a package of online, practical tools, case studies. There's a knowledge hub, a knowledge management center to help share what's happening in different areas so that we can learn from each other. But that'll lead up quite a lot of the funding. So, a lot of the heavy lifting is going to be left to local organizations to do. So just interesting. So, I mean, what's your kind of thoughts and reaction to this announcement, Gandhi, and the hype versus?
Well, I think, like you mentioned, Andy, there's a huge amount of hype that's coming with this, but how much of that will actually result into demonstrable action that people will see quickly, maybe less so. I think some of these projects do sound quite interesting. I think they will take time for them to manifest, because actually it requires bringing people to the table. That's what part of the paperwork side of it was before the submission. And I think it's probably bigger than what the people are making it out to be, particularly people within the media buzz, and hoping that goes well for them.
Yeah. I mean, for me, this is something that local areas need to do anyway to develop and get themselves ready for integrated neighbourhood working. So to be honest, if this is something that gets everyone around the table around a common project and accelerates that locally, then I think it is worthwhile. That's my final position of it, and looking forward to being involved.
Absolutely. So, congratulations, Nottingham, again on getting into it. But next, we're going to go through the news roundup, as we're calling it, because we're going to summarize a couple of stories that are quite significant, but actually feed into a larger story that we're going to talk about in a second. So this is our news roundup, and we're starting off with the contract changes, aren't we, Andy?
Yeah. So last time we were on air, we covered the GP. What's it called? The GP.
You and your general practice.
Yes. So that's the charter.
The GP charter,
the GP patient charter that's going to have to be displayed from the 1st of October, describing what patients can expect from their GP. And that really talked about the changes to access that will be coming in on the 1st of October. So 28th of August, there was a contract variation letter that went out to practices, varying their GMS PMS contracts such that they, from the 1st of October, will have to keep their main methods of patient contact open for core hours. So telephone, face-to-face at the desk, but also online consultation tools will have to be open for all of core hours. It's 8:30 to 6:30, generally speaking. And people will need to receive a same-day response to queries sent down those channels. A lot of people were really worried about how they were going to cope with this, particularly if people presented with things that might need urgent action, at 6:29, when people are about to go home. So lots of concern about that, but that contract variation came through. I guess that leads into the next story, which is people are asking, actually, what do we actually need to do? So people were actually concerned that they might need to make a medical assessment, at 6:29 in that last 1 minute of being open and being able to do anything at all about it, or not necessarily being able to take any action to help patients. So they were asked for clarity, and they did provide clarity that patients need a response within 1 working day, which can be just telling people what will happen next. So you don't have to complete that episode of care. You don't necessarily have to give medical advice, but you need to tell them what happens next. And key thing is that triage does need to have happened. So there needs to be, it can't just be an automated response. Somebody needs to have seen that and taken some responsibility for the response. So I guess it's still possible that you do need to take action if something potentially serious or harmful comes in at that time. But that clarity came, which I guess leads us then into well, I found quite a shocking story, because I'm a fan of Katie Bramall-Stainer, but there was a story around.
Wrong story, Andy.
Oh, wrong story.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I've got the order wrong. Oh, we were doing all the big setup there as well. GPC England chair could face a vote of no confidence amid contract changes row. I might hand over to you here briefly, Gandhi, to run with this one. You've got a little bit more knowledge about the internal workings of GPC and so forth.
Yes. So, I mean, we're still waiting for details on some of this, but effectively it seems that there are members in the GPC who are not happy with some aspects that have happened. In particular, there's this aspect of this contract change, and that there seems to have been effectively missed in terms of the documentation that came through as part of this. And there's a view then that this is a significant error or a significant event. And therefore, one of the responses has come from this is that there'll be a significant event analysis to how this communication didn't get tracked, followed, etc. And then as a result of that, got accepted into the contract change. But as a result of that, then some GPC members are calling for a vote of no confidence in Katie Bramall-Stainer, because ultimately they feel that somebody needs to be held accountable and responsible for that action. Now, I think there are compounding aspects that come into this. And just to be clear, myself and Andy have no further knowledge of what's going on or all this kind of stuff. And we are still waiting to see what happens with this. But I think, there are, there's ever two sides to the story. I know Katie personally. She's an amazing person. I cannot think of anybody else I could imagine currently leading general practice in this current situation. So I'm a bit surprised this vote of no confidence has come through. And I suspect, as ever, there's always two sides to a story. And I know that, I don't know, I feel it's just the wrong time to be doing this kind of thing, to be honest.
Leadership doesn't necessarily feel like the right thing to do at the moment. So just sort of reading through the article, it looks like when the GPC and the BMA had sort of copies and knowledge of the proposed contract changes, that it wasn't picked up when they were comparing changes from the previous contract, and they didn't pick this issue up about opening online consultations for all of core hours, and that was only picked up later. And then I think people have asked questions about the process, and it's sort of emerged as people have asked quite specific questions about what process sort of was there around the review of the contract in the negotiations with the government back in the spring. So quite technical, and I think we don't claim to know the ins and outs of it. I mean, I don't know Katie Bramall-Stainer personally, but looking at how she behaves professionally, how she's able to communicate, manage the media, how she uses social media as well as traditional media really well to get general practice's point across. I think that she is really, really effective. So I think it would be a real shame to lose her at this point in time. And sometimes people can learn from mistakes. It's really, that they're probably the least likely to make mistakes in the future because of the learning that they've had from the past. So I have confidence in Katie Bramall-Stainer personally. I think I'm quite happy to say that, and I'd love for her to carry on. I feel I can say that because I don't know her personally, only seen her professional output. But there we go. But I found that quite a surprising story.
Definitely, and not one I think that we were expecting to see come out when we're just a couple of weeks away from one of the most potentially significant changes that practice is going to feel, at the very least, on the doorstep and things. Now, we have got another news story to go, but just before we get to that, we're going to do our little fun section that we're now calling On Our Wavelength. So are you ready for this, Andy?
I am ready, yeah.
Okay, so just to remind everybody what we're doing. So this was out of our recent survey. You said you wanted us to do a little bit more fun stuff. So we're playing this game called Wavelength, which is it's a great board game. Highly recommend grabbing it. But basically, this is the spectrum. And what you'll see is this lovely little lines here, which are different points. So the middle one's 4, 3, 2, etc. And I'm going to spin it round, close it, and then I'm going to give Andy a clue based on a spectrum. So, high, low, for example, and I'll give you the details of what the spectrum is. And then based on that clue, Andy's got to guess by guiding me with this lovely little pointer where he thinks on this spectrum it's going to be. Then we'll reveal it and we'll see if he's on my spectrum. Remember, this is about him thinking on my wavelength. So how would Andy answer this question, kind of thing? Does that make sense, Andy?
It does. And we were bang on last week.
Yeah, last time we did this,
absolutely
Andy literally got it bang on. I could not believe that he got it so exact. But let's see if you can do it again this time, shall we? All right.
Okay. No
so
pressure.
The spectrum you've got, and we've gone a bit more clinical this time. So we've got easy to prescribe, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And difficult to prescribe.
Oh, there's a few ways you could interpret that.
There is, yeah.
Andy.
So
okay.
yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to give it a quick spin. Have a quick look at where we are. Okay. Right. Okay. So remember, easy to prescribe, difficult to prescribe. Okay. You ready?
Yep.
Got to think of something now, haven't I?
Anticipatory opiates in people with renal. failure in an EGFR
All
less
right,
than 5.
let's
Sorry.
see what you think on this.
Okay.
Mebendazole.
Oh, I mean, should we really be prescribing that at all? Maybe in some cases, available over the counter. Okay, and so as I'm looking at it, easy to prescribe is on the left of my screen.
This side,
Is that right?
yeah. Difficult to prescribe is this side. If you're playing at home, you just need to write down a number. So if you put 0 degrees here and this side's 175 degrees, okay?
Okay, that's fine. Might be some consideration to age, but there's not that much difference across age ranges. I'm gonna say, like, if you turn that to 20 degrees, so straight up would be 90, all the way to the other side would be 108. Stop, back a bit. Stop. Let's go there.
Okay. So I'm not going to reveal it just yet. I'm going to give everybody who's watching us live a chance to vote. So Andy's gone for what he thinks is 20 degrees there. Let's see what numbers you put in the chat and stuff. We'll come to that after we've gone through this next story. So what that story is, well, we heard about some of the challenges that are going on in the GPC. There is more going on in terms of the fact that we potentially have a dispute over the 10-year plan. You want to talk us through this, Andy?
Yeah. So I think we've covered before how the 10-year plan has landed both kind of immediately and then over like the following weeks with general practice. And the 10-year plan talked about some new contracting mechanisms for general practice. The small neighborhood providers, the multi-neighborhood providers didn't talk at all about a new core contract, a new GMS contract, and actually was indicating that organizations other than general practice might be able to take on and hold those SNP and MNP contracts. So people were actually worried about the level of support for traditional general practice core contract partnership model that was present in the 10-year plan, and all sorts of other things that people found worrying. So I guess that's where the worries come from. The story here is that the BMA's council has called a special representatives meeting to debate the risk of the 10-year plan to the medical profession at large. So not just GPs, but some of the motions do relate to general practice. And the agenda to this meeting includes a number of motions. I might scroll down to them, actually. There's quite a lot to these motions, but actually reading the first kind of paragraph of each gives you a gist, really. So 3 motions that they've identified. So one, this meeting, the motion is that this meeting, noting the multiple upheavals to contracting presented by the 10-year plan, believes the plan poses an existential threat to the GP independent contractor model, the GMS contract, and therefore the very concept of the family doctor. And then it describes various things that it opposes and supports the GPC to do various things in response to that. So we can go into that in a bit more detail if you want to, Gandhi, but maybe just give an overview of the other motions. So from the Birmingham division, proposed that this meeting believes the government's 10-year health plan for England threatens the independent contractor status of GPs. So that's another one. And finally, motion by the Agenda Committee, to be proposed by medical students conference agenda. So I think this is about training. So that this meeting notes the commitment in the NHS 10-year plan to expand specialty training places and prioritise UK graduates for foundation and specialty training, and to prioritise other doctors who have worked in the NHS for a significant period of specialty training. However, it is concerned that the proposed expansion will not adequately address issues with postgraduate recruitment nor create a sustainable medical workforce, and condemns the current mass unemployment of doctors across the UK. Therefore, calls upon the meeting, the government too. So some difficulties for the 10-year plan at the BMA.
Definitely. So that special meeting is this Sunday in London, I believe it is. And it'll be interesting to see what the outputs of that are. I suspect we will have some news stories either probably Monday morning hitting us, and it'll be interesting to see what the outputs of that meeting are, and more importantly, what response we get from people like Wes Streeting, Neil Kinnock, etc., and stuff as a result of that particular meeting. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think the last one relates to junior doctors. I think are being balloted again, industrial action, and I think that relates to some of the concern around unemployment, not or underemployment, not just in people coming off GP training schemes, which we're quite familiar talking about, but actually
Yep.
people moving, say, from foundation programs to speciality training. There are problems with the number of speciality training places available, with really quite high proportions of doctors not finding places on speciality training. So real issues at that stage in people's medical career as well. So wavelength.
Wavelength. So the question is Andy on my wavelength? Shall we find out? So just a reminder, Andy said 20%. We've not had any comments from anybody watching us live. That's okay. Maybe you're feeling shy. You can still, if you're watching this subsequently, put it in the comments and see if you got it right or not, and let me know. I'll be keeping an eye on that for now. But are you ready, Andy?
Yeah, let's go for it.
3, 2, 1.
You need some music for the reveal.
Oh, no. Close.
Oh, we were
really
close. Okay,
close.
you went for like super easy, because
super easy.
The dosing's always just about the same, and you can get it over the counter, etc.
Pretty much. Yeah. I was trying to think, what is the easiest thing? So mebendazole, for those that aren't medical, is used to treat things like threadworms and various other type of helminth infections. As Andy mentioned, it's available over the counter. You do not need a prescription for it. You can literally go to the pharmacy and get it directly, and it's one dose pretty much universally, no matter how old you are, no matter your age and that kind of stuff. Initially I thought paracetamol, but then I realized that paracetamol actually can sometimes be quite tricky to prescribe because it changes based on kidney function, whether that was going too deep into it. So
are you over 50 kilograms or under 50 kilograms? You're
curious to know, Andy, what would you have put for something that is the easiest thing to prescribe possible? Because that's basically what I was asking for.
I was like Caniston cream. I'd have gone for a topical, Gandhi.
Good idea. Yeah,
maybe it's easy to say now. Yeah,
there we go. Anyways, you pillinners, so we have rattled through today's episode. We're still just under half an hour's time frame, and just before we go, like I said, one of the things that you absolutely love it if you would join us for is GP5TX. If you want to do that, then simply go to bit.ly/GP5TX, all in capitals in the last part. You have the opportunity to join. Tickets are still available. It's an online conference. You'll get access to the recording straight away once it's finished, and we know it's going to be an amazing conference. I'm also going to another conference next week called The Fix. So if you happen to be there, it's a health tech festival / conference / I don't quite know. It sounds really different. It's going to be interesting, I think.
It looks amazing.
Yeah, so I think Andy's putting it up and stuff. And if you do want to come and join, it's not free. You do have to pay, I'm afraid. I will put links down below. And I think there's even a discount if you use my EGP. There's got some like partnership thing going on that if you use a code, then the person gets 10% off or something like that. But I'll be there. It looks crazy. It looks different. And I just want
they've really gone for the AI generated images.
Oh yeah, definitely. But loads of other cool people are going to be there. Keith Grimes, who I've known for ages, he's going to be there. Nikki Kanani, various other health tech people as well. So I think it's going to be an awesome conference. Also, like I said, GP5TX. And as always, we'll be here to tech enhance your primary care and learning. We'll catch you.